Dear you, it happened in a moment that looked completely ordinary. You were standing somewhere familiar, maybe in a kitchen, maybe in a hallway, maybe just pausing between tasks, and you felt it. Not sharply, not dramatically. Just a quiet awareness that you had been adjusting yourself for a very long time. Adjusting your tone, adjusting your expectations, adjusting your reactions, adjusting who you were, depending on where you were and who you were with. You didn't notice it as a problem at first. Adjustment felt practical, necessary, even mature. You told yourself it was just part of growing up, learning how to navigate different spaces, how to get along, how to make things work. And for a while, it did work. Things stayed smooth. Conflicts were avoided. Life moved forward without too many disruptions. But somewhere along the way, you began to feel tired in a specific way. Not physically exhausted, not emotionally overwhelmed. Just worn from always shifting, from always checking the room before you checked yourself, from always deciding what version of you would be easiest, safest, most acceptable in each moment. You noticed it when you laughed at things that didn't really feel funny, when you agreed before you had time to feel, when you softened your opinions before anyone challenged them. You became very good at fitting in, and being good at it made it hard to stop, because fitting in brought relief. It kept things calm. It kept you connected, and connection mattered to you deeply. You didn't feel fake. That's important. You weren't pretending to be someone you weren't. You were just editing, trimming parts of yourself that felt inconvenient, holding back thoughts that might complicate things, choosing harmony over honesty, not because you didn't value truth, but because you valued peace. Still, there were moments when something inside you felt slightly distant, like you were present, but not fully rooted, like you were participating, but not arriving. You couldn't point to a single cause. You just knew that after so much adjusting, you weren't always sure where you ended and the environment began. You didn't talk about this feeling because it sounded ungrateful. You had relationships. You had opportunities. You had reasons to be content. So you told yourself the discomfort was minor, that it didn't deserve attention. You told yourself everyone adjusted, everyone compromised, everyone made themselves easier to be around. And yet, the feeling lingered, a quiet sense of being slightly out of alignment with your own life. A subtle ache of wondering when you would get to stop adapting and simply be. A gentle but persistent question. When do I arrive as myself? If you're reading this and feeling a soft recognition, it's because this experience is deeply shared. Many people live this way, skilled at adaptation, fluent in adjustment, without realizing how much energy it costs. They don't feel broken. They just feel subtly displaced inside their own lives. You weren't doing anything wrong. You were surviving in a world that often rewards flexibility more than authenticity. Adjustment becomes a habit long before it becomes an identity. At first, it's something you do intentionally. You notice what's needed and you respond. You learn what works and what doesn't. You refine your behavior to keep things running smoothly. Over time, That responsiveness stops feeling like a choice and starts feeling like reflex. Your past self understands now how that happened. You learned that being adaptable kept relationships stable. You learned that being agreeable avoided tension. You learned that being low friction made life easier. And those lessons weren't wrong. They helped you navigate complexity. They helped you maintain connection. But they also taught you to prioritize external harmony over internal alignment. And when that imbalance lasts too long, something subtle begins to shift. You stop asking yourself what you want because you're so used to responding to what's needed. You stop noticing your own preferences because you've trained yourself to accommodate others. You stop trusting your instincts because they've been quiet for so long. This doesn't happen all at once. It happens in increments, in small decisions, in repeated compromises, in moments where you think, it's not worth it to bring this up. And each time you think that, you reinforce the idea that your inner experience can be postponed. Your past self sees now that the discomfort you felt wasn't dissatisfaction, it was misalignment. You weren't unhappy with your life, you were disconnected from parts of yourself within it. And that kind of disconnection doesn't shout. It whispers, it shows up as a vague restlessness, as difficulty making decisions, as a sense of being present but not grounded. You might have wondered why things that should feel fulfilling felt slightly empty. Why moments that should feel meaningful felt oddly neutral. Why you sometimes felt like you were watching your own life instead of inhabiting it. The answer wasn't that you needed more excitement or more change. The answer was that you needed less self-abandonment, less editing, less adjusting without checking in. Your past self understands now that arriving in your own life requires risk. The risk of being slightly inconvenient, the risk of being misunderstood. The risk of allowing friction where friction naturally exists. And because you valued peace, you avoided those risks for a long time. But peace that requires constant self-adjustment eventually becomes exhausting. You weren't wrong for adapting. You weren't weak for compromising. You weren't mistaken for valuing harmony. You just reached a point where adaptation stopped serving you and started costing you. And recognizing that is not a failure, it's growth. Once you see adjustment for what it is, a tool, not a requirement, you begin to imagine a different way of living. One where you still consider others, but not at the expense of yourself. One where you still care deeply, but not silently. That realization doesn't demand immediate change. It simply invites awareness. And awareness is the first step toward alignment. Right now, I want to speak to the part of you that is tired of adjusting. The part that wonders what it would feel like to arrive somewhere without reshaping yourself first. The part that quietly asks for permission to take up space as you are. You are allowed to arrive, not all at once. Not perfectly, not without discomfort, but you are allowed. Arriving doesn't mean becoming rigid. It doesn't mean ignoring others or forcing your way through life. It means beginning to include yourself in the equation. It means checking in before you automatically adapt. It means noticing when you're adjusting out of habit rather than choice. You don't have to stop being considerate to be authentic. You don't have to stop caring to be honest. You don't have to stop adapting entirely. You just have to make sure adaptation is a choice, not a reflex. Start small. Notice when you say yes without thinking. Notice when you soften a truth before it's even spoken. Notice when you feel a quiet resistance and override it automatically. These moments aren't mistakes. They're opportunities to pause, to ask, what do I actually feel here? To let your internal response exist before you manage it. Some days, choosing yourself will feel awkward. It may feel unfamiliar or even selfish at first. That's normal. You're not used to arriving. You're used to adjusting. Give yourself time to learn a new rhythm. There will be people who welcome this shift. There may be some who don't. That's not a sign you're doing something wrong. And grounded presence naturally changes dynamics. If you're listening to this and feeling seen, it's because many people are quietly longing for this same thing. The permission to stop shifting, the permission to be whole, the permission to arrive in their own lives without apology. You don't need to find a new life to do this. You don't need to change everything. You just need to stop leaving yourself out. Arrival happens in moments, in decisions, in pauses, in small acts of honesty. And over time, those moments add up. You begin to feel more solid, more present, more at home in yourself. One day, you'll realize that the quiet discomfort you once felt has softened, that you no longer feel quite so displaced, that you're no longer always adjusting. You're responding, yes, but from a place that includes you. That's what it means to arrive. Not somewhere new, but back into yourself. You don't have to rush this. You don't have to prove it. Just begin. Sincerely, you.